Yvette, sit down. Now.
Behind the uproarious antics of Allo Allo, the beloved British sitcom that turned World War II into a farce, lay real-life stories far darker than the show's light-hearted humor. For millions of fans, the Café of René Artois was a place of laughter, mistaken identities, and absurd disguises. Yet, the actors who brought these iconic characters to life often faced personal battles as dramatic as the wartime escapades they portrayed. From Gordon Kaye's private struggles with identity and memory loss to Carmen Sylvera's lonely final years, the cast's off-screen lives were marked by tragedy, illness, and untimely deaths. As we delve into each performer's life, their rises, falls, and ultimate fates, we uncover a legacy far more poignant than the show's slapstick surface. Their laughter lives on screen, but their struggles remind us that even the brightest stars face darkness when the cameras stop rolling. Which story will haunt you the most? Let's begin. The man who made the world laugh as the flustered cafe owner René Artois carried a secret pain that even his closest fans never saw. Gordon Kaye, born April 7th, 1941 in Huddersfield, Yorkshire, grew up in a working-class family where money was tight and dreams seemed out of reach. As a child, he developed a severe stammer that made him the target of bullies, an experience that would later fuel both his insecurities and his determination to perform. Kaye's journey to stardom was anything but easy. After studying at the London Academy of Music and Dramatic Art, the accident caused significant memory loss. Heartbreakingly, he sometimes struggled to remember the very role that made him famous. Colleagues noted he became more withdrawn afterwards, though he bravely returned to complete the series. Off-screen, Kaye guarded his privacy fiercely. He never married and only late in life spoke openly about being gay, revealing how societal pressures had forced him to hide his true self during the show's peak years. After Allo Allo ended in 1992, he largely retreated from public life, though he made occasional theater appearances. Gordon Kaye passed away on January 23, 2017, at age 75. While the official cause was listed as natural causes, those close to him knew the accident had taken a permanent toll. Today, fans still quote René's panic catchphrase, "You stupid woman," without realizing the quiet suffering of the man who delivered it so perfectly. His legacy remains bittersweet, a brilliant comedian who gave the world laughter while concealing his own pain. The shrieking, tone-deaf Edith Artois became one of Allo Allo's most iconic characters, but Carmen Sylvera's real life contained far more tragedy than comedy. Born June 2, 1922, in Toronto to Spanish immigrant parents, her childhood was marked by constant upheaval. The family fled to England during the Great Depression, where young Carmen struggled with poverty and the trauma of World War II air raids that would haunt her for life. Sylvera trained as a dancer before transitioning to acting in the 1950s. Sylvera's personal life was marked by solitude. A brief early marriage ended in divorce, and she never remarried or had children. Colleagues described her as warm but intensely private, often retreating to her London flat alone after filming. The deaths of her mother and only brother left her without immediate family, and in her later years, she reportedly struggled with depression. After Allo Allo ended, Sylvera became active in cancer charities, perhaps motivated by her own health battles. She was diagnosed with lung cancer in the late 1990s, though she continued making occasional appearances until her final days. On August 3, 2002, Sylvera passed away at 80 years old in a London hospice. Fittingly for an actress who brought joy to millions, her funeral featured a recording of Edith's terrible singing. But the moment was bittersweet, a celebration of a character who outlived the complex woman who created her. Today, Sylvera's grave in East Finchley Cemetery bears a simple epitaph. She made them laugh. Few knew how much it cost her. The bumbling German Colonel von Strom hid one of Allo Allo's most extraordinary backstories. Born Alexander Molinov in Petrograd, now St. Petersburg, on March 27, 1921. Richard Marner's family fled the Russian Revolution when he was just an infant. This Jewish refugee would grow up to play one of television's most beloved Nazi officers, an irony not lost on him. Marner's childhood in London was marked by hardship. His family arrived penniless, and young Alexander, who later anglicized his name, struggled with language barriers and anti-immigrant prejudice. Colleagues noted he could be distant, perhaps haunted by his refugee childhood. Marner's later years were quiet. His marriage had grown strained, and he became increasingly reclusive at his Sussex home. On March 18, 2004, the 82-year-old actor passed away from smoking-related illnesses. Few fans realized the Jewish refugee who played a Nazi had outlived both the Soviet Union he fled and the Reich his character served. A final, poignant twist for an actor who turned personal trauma into comedy gold. The lovably dim Captain Gearing brought constant laughter to Allo Allo, but Sam Kelly's own life began with profound loss. Born December 19, 1943, in Manchester, Kelly was orphaned young when his father died in World War II and his mother passed soon after. Raised in foster care, he found escape in school plays, using performance to cope with loneliness. Kelly trained at the prestigious London Academy of Music and Dramatic Art, but success came slowly. For years, he preferred quiet nights reading history books to showbiz parties. In 2013, Kelly was diagnosed with cancer. Characteristically, he continued working through treatment, determined to die with his boots on. His final performance, a poignant cameo in EastEnders, aired just months before his death on June 14, 2014, at age 70. Fittingly, Kelly's last interview reflected on Gearing. People still stop me to say how much joy that silly Nazi brought them. Few realized the orphan who created such laughter had spent a lifetime mastering the art of survival. The steely-eyed General von Klinkerhoffen commanded every scene with authoritarian menace, but Hilary Minster's off-screen battles were far more harrowing. Born March 21, 1944, into a theatrical London family, Minster seemed destined for stardom, yet his path was riddled with personal demons. After training at the Bristol Old Vic Theatre School, Minster built a respected career playing military figures, typecast by his rigid posture and piercing glare. His Allo Allo role as the ruthless general, 1984 to 1992, became iconic. He faced his mortality with characteristic stoicism. His final days were spent alone in a London hospice, where nurses reported he'd still snap to attention when hearing his character's theme music. Minster died November 24, 1999, at just 55, the youngest principal cast member to pass. His gravestone bears no mention of von Klinkerhoffen, only the Shakespearean quote he requested. "Life's but a walking shadow." A haunting epitaph for an actor who brought laughter while secretly wrestling with despair. The eternally romantic Undertaker Monsieur Alphonse charmed audiences with his sweet bumbling. But Kenneth Connor's real life was shadowed by a depression that even his legendary comedy couldn't dispel. Born June 6, 1918, in London's rough Southwark district, medication and therapy allowed him to continue working, but colleagues noticed he'd often retreat to his dressing room between takes, staring blankly at the wall. "On asterisco allo allo, asterisco." They laugh at my sorrowful clown, never knowing the clown is real. His marriage to childhood sweetheart Margaret remained strong, though she often intervened when depression left him unable to leave bed. Connor worked until the end, filming his final Alphonse scenes while secretly battling prostate cancer. He died November 28, 1993, at 75, leaving behind 50 years of laughter and a single, heartbreaking note: "I made millions happy. Why couldn't I ever feel it myself?" The sinister yet absurd Gestapo officer, her flick became one of Allo Allo's most memorable characters, but John Lewis Mancy's personal life contained a tragedy far darker than any plotline. Born November 8, 1926, in London, Mancy's early career as a Shakespearean actor seemed worlds apart from the slapstick spy he'd later immortalize. His final performances as her flick took on a haunting quality, the character's comic menace now underscored by real sorrow. Mancy lived quietly in his later years, refusing all convention appearances and interview requests about Allo Allo. He passed away August 6, 2010, at 83, leaving strict instructions that his grave should bear only his birth name. No mention of the Nazi caricature that made him famous. The formidable Madame Fanny, with her withering insults and razor-sharp tongue, became an audience favorite, but Rose Hill's journey to the role was anything but easy. Born June 5th, where she developed the commanding presence that would define her later career, Hill brought unexpected depth to the cantankerous cafe matriarch, drawing on her own experiences of hardship. Off camera, she was vastly different from her character, a gentle, cultured woman who loved poetry and classical music. Her two marriages both ended tragically. Her first husband died in World War II. She continued working well into her 80s, outliving most of her co-stars. When she passed away on December 22, 2003, at age 89, the show's creator David Croft remarked, "Rose was the last of the old guard, a true professional who could deliver a punchline while breaking your heart." The flamboyant resistance fighter Rogerlair, with his outrageous disguises and catchphrase, "It is I, Leclerc," became one of Allo Allo's most beloved characters, improvising many of the character's most memorable moments. But behind the scenes, he battled severe depression and alcoholism stemming from his wartime service. Haig never lived to see Allo Allo become a global phenomenon. He passed away on July 4th, 1989 at 76, just as the show was gaining international popularity. His final performance, Leclerc disguised as a nun, remains one of the series' most iconic moments, a fitting tribute to an actor who turned personal pain into timeless comedy. The unflappable Ernest Leclerc, with his dry wit and perfect comic timing, became an audience favorite. Yet Robin Parkinson himself remained one of British comedy's most understated talents. He was famously private, the polar opposite of his flamboyant predecessor Jack Haig. Parkinson's personal life was remarkably stable compared to his co-stars, preserving its legacy with quiet dedication. When Parkinson passed away on May 7, 2022 at 92, he was the last surviving main cast member. His death marked the final curtain for the original Allo Allo team, closing a chapter in British comedy history. The legacy of Allo Allo endures as one of television's greatest comedies, yet behind its timeless humor lies a poignant truth about the actors who brought it to life. From Gordon Kaye's private suffering to Carmen Sylva's lonely final years, from Richard Marner's refugee trauma to Sam Kelly's orphan childhood, these performers channeled real pain into creating something joyful. Their stories reveal the paradox of comedy, that those who make us laugh loudest often carry the heaviest burdens. Kenneth Connor couldn't escape his depression, Hilary Minster couldn't outrun his demons, and John Lewis Mancy never recovered from his son's tragic death. Yet before the cameras, they created moments of pure, anarchic joy that continued to delight generations. Some, like Rose Hill and Robin Parkinson, found relative peace in their later years. Others, like Jack Haig, left the stage too soon. What unites them all is the extraordinary gift they gave audiences, the ability to laugh at war's absurdity during times when laughter was most needed. As we revisit Renee's Cafe today, the echoes of these performers' lives add new depth to every joke and double entendre. Their art reminds us that comedy often springs from dark places, and that even the silliest characters can be vessels for profound humanity. The Allo Allo cast's greatest achievement wasn't just making the world laugh. It was doing so while navigating their own private wars. Which of these stories moved you most? Share your memories of these unforgettable performers in the comments below. And if you found this tribute meaningful, consider subscribing for more explorations of television history's hidden human stories.